Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing two more move updates from the Season 24 balance patch for Go Battle League, and that is the changes to Shadow Empoleon and Altaria. These two Pokemon were already a formidable core in their heyday many seasons back, and they are back. They're very, very strong. Shadow Empoleon gets Metal Sound and extra damage on Drill Peck, and Altaria, its Dragon Breath is now reworked to be a Psywave clone, Sky Attack is cheaper so it gets some of its pacing back, and it gets Flamethrower for coverage. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at this dynamic duo once again teaming up in the Great League. Off to a great start in game number 1, Empoleon into Bastiodon. Opponent save switches into Victory Bell, and anytime I see Bastiodon and Victory Bell, I assume there's going to be another Razor Leafer. So after grabbing a shield with Drill Peck, I'm actually going to save the Altaria for the Razor Leafer in the back and send in Dusclops. They go for an Acid Spray, and here is where not knowing Magical Leap energy counts is actually going to cost me a shield. I overfarmed too much, I play to a CMP tie that I do not win, and that's overall just sloppy gameplay by me. I go for an Undercharge on the Shadow Punch. In the back, they have Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, I will get a little bit of chip on with the Ice Punch, and then I can aggressively pivot into the Empoleon, but my opponent puts up a shield on that Ice Punch. To me, that's a bit of a surprise, because Hydro Cannon from Empoleon is going to do quite a bit more. They're going to throw the Icy Wind. Icy Wind obviously means that I now do less damage with my Metal Sounds and with my Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon into the Wigglytuff does not KO. In the back is Bastiodon, and I will go straight for the Hydro Cannon. This is valuable damage onto the Bastiodon. Bastiodon is now going to be below half HP, and it's time. Altaria hits the field. Altaria previously was entirely walled by Bastiodon, but now with Flamethrower, at the very least, it can hit for neutral. Stone Edge is going to hit for some pretty significant damage. Altaria going for the Flamethrower. I need to put them in a range where I can potentially knock them out with the Dusclops. In comes the Dusclops. I wait the turn, the smackdown. I visually see it start, so I throw the Shadow Punch. We farm down Bastiodon. In comes Wigglytuff. We farm that down as well, and we defeat a toxic team to take a Game 1 win. Moving into game number 2, it's the battle of the buffed Pokemon, Shadow Empoleon versus Guzzlord. I think Guzzlord is incredibly strong with these changes. It gets the Brutal Swing and only 3 Dragon Tails, and Dragon Claw is now substantially more expensive but also hits way harder. And Guzzlord never had a nuke move before, so this is very good news for Guzzlord. Guzzlord is forced to throw an alignment, otherwise I would be able to force a shield with the Drill Peck, but what that's going to do is it's going to set up Empoleon's ability to fully farm down. So Empoleon exits with back-to-back Hydro Cannons. I'm staring at the top right to see the typing of what gets brought in here. I see it's Steel Psychic, and I immediately just click Hydro Cannon. It's Jirachi. Confusion does not knock out, and that's great news for me as I'm able to get both my Hydro Cannons off. They fully sacrifice the Jirachi. In the back is Galarian Corsola, and I should be winning this game. I can send in the Altaria, and it's so nice to have Altaria that has pacing once again, because obviously back in its heyday, it could get to moves pretty quickly, and it was obviously monstrously bulky. But the really unfortunate thing is it lost its pacing, and that's part of why it fell out of the meta. But now, it really feels like Altaria is back. Altaria gets extra coverage, it gets the Sky Attack pretty quickly, and now I can just send in the Dusclops. At this point, I don't even have to throw moves, I can just go for a Hex down. I'm always going to shield to force them to throw again, because every time they throw a move, I get a Hex through. And Nightshade, it's super effective damage, but it simply will not be enough to knock out. Dusclops survives, we get the Hex down, and we take the win. Moving to the next match, we have Empoleon versus Empoleon, the mirror match. Now, looking at my IVs, you are going to realize that I have a very high attack Shadow Empoleon. I just never found a high rank one, so I built a very high attack one. So I should be winning charge attack priority, which is really useful in a mirror match when you can't ever really farm down your opponent. I will go for the Hydro. I win charge attack priority, and that is great news for me. Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded, and I think I'm okay just letting my Empoleon get KO'd. My opponent Drill Pecked, expecting a catch. I save switch into Dusclops. Oh no, they send in Altaria, and it's very clear that a Dusclops up a shield and up energy is just winning into their backline. Ice Punch connects, big damage onto the Altaria. I'm going to be no shielding because I can survive a Sky Attack. I will look to overfarm with the Dusclops. No baits here, I'm up a shield. I want to guarantee a knockout or the final shield. They are going to give me the knockout, and in the back is Grumpig. Oh, that's a really cool pick. Unfortunately, Grumpig is just down 2 shields to 0, and it will not be able to farm down the Dusclops. The Dusclops is just simply too healthy. So Shadow Punch will land, in comes Altaria, and 2-shield Altaria is just invincible neutrally, so my opponent will resign the match. We move to the next match, Empoleon staring down Dedenne. Now you may be asking, Henry, Empoleon plus Dragon Core, doesn't this lose to Dedenne? Well, I don't think anyone told Shadow Empoleon that. Shadow Empoleon, as long as you're not down energy, which is very, very important, Empoleon does well here. I believe a high attack Shadow Empoleon actually wins the 2s against the Dedenne, just because your metal sounds are hitting for neutral damage and they do so much, and you win charge attack priority. So I'm able to force the final shield from my opponent. I'm getting quite low, but I should be in a nice spot. My opponent will have to catch out or they're just going to lose their Dedenne. So I go for the Hydro Cannon. Opponent is going to make the catch onto Corviknight. Now this is very simple. I should just bring in Altaria here, as Altaria does great. But unfortunately, in the moment, I click the wrong Mon and I send in Dusclops. Corviknight runs Payback now. It runs Payback and Air Cutter, and it's Sand Attack. And with Altaria having Flamethrower, Altaria just beats Corviknight. So I should always bring in the Altaria, but instead, I bring in the Dusclops, I tank a Payback, I lose way too much health, and now how am I going to get rid of this Dedenne? They're going to bring in Dedenne. Dedenne will throw 2 and the move, and now they're going to be boosted up. Parabolic Charge, making it even harder to get them off the field. I bring in Altaria. I'm needing a catch, and we get the catch. Okay, that's step 1. I completely threw this game, but maybe we can find a way back. Opponent is going to send in Claydol as their final Pokemon, and I am just kicking myself. If I had just played to sending in Altaria to the Corviknight, I would have had Dusclops on this Claydol and very easily won the game. But instead, my Altaria is getting Ice Beamed, and I will end up losing this one. Man, that was such a winnable game, but unfortunately, that was operator error, not the team's fault. Bad lead in the next match, Empoleon into Marowak. It's actually a non-Shadow Marowak. I go for the Shadow Punch, my opponent ends up switching into Corviknight, and to my surprise, they end up shielding this Shadow Punch. Granted, Dusclops does have some pretty nice play in this matchup, especially up energy, and if I'm able to correctly shield the Payback, so I guess it's them trying to guarantee that they win alignment. But I should still be able to make a play for Switch as long as I correctly shield Paybacks, and I'm able to do just that. I will just spam out these Shadow Punches, taking advantage of the massive pacing advantage Dusclops has. I don't think the next Shadow Punch will KO just yet, so I don't really want to throw a move that won't knock out. So I'm going to overfarm, shield up the Payback, farm up basically as much as I can, and now Shadow Punch, they're never going to shield it because I just have so much energy, and I will be able to win Switch. This is nice, I can Ice Punch the Marowak if they bring it in, but they bring in Empoleon. They actually get 3 metal sounds there, and that is not a game bug. I was just watching to see what got brought in, and when I saw the Empoleon, I tapped my screen too late, so that's definitely my fault, not the game's fault. They will have to throw energy, which is very nice, and the Marowak is obviously going to get stuck onto my Altaria, which is exactly where I want it. They stay in with the Empoleon, in comes the Marowak, and now we'll have to see this buffed Rock Slide damage. Obviously, the Shadow Marowak would hit harder. It looks like Shadow Marowak can actually 2-shot Altaria now, so that does make Shadow Marowak feel like more of a flexible Pokemon. But here, we're going to see the sins of the non-Shadow Marowak. It just cannot do enough damage. Marowak going for Rock Slide number 2. They desperately need it to knock out, but Altaria hangs on, makes one final Sky Attack, and I'm going to throw the Metal Sound as I switch to watch for them to try and catch. They do try and catch onto Empoleon. Since they didn't catch, this game is now over because I can farm up to the back-to-back Hydro Cannons. This first Hydro Cannon will be knocking out their Empoleon, and then the second Hydro Cannon will easily be KOing the pretty low health Marowak. So, a bit of a tricky lead, but Dusclops being able to flip Corviknight in the mid-game set me up very well for success. Great lead in the next match, Empoleon into Wigglytuff. Opponent safe switches into a Shadow Ninetales, and Ember has been seriously reworked this season. Ember is now a clone of Poison Sting. This means Ember does basically no damage, but it is incredibly spammy. So even in a matchup here where I'm resisting the Embers, Psyshock only hits for neutral, Kanto Ninetales actually has a lot of play. I think Kanto Ninetales is stronger this season because of this rework. They're going to keep spamming out these Psyshocks, and Altaria is going to have to give a shield back. That is not something that would have happened in previous metas, so that is very cool to see. Altaria, I'm going to overfarm very carefully, and you're going to see why I overfarmed this way in a moment. Because Charm is a lot weaker now in terms of damage, and I can make a Sky Attack into this Wigglytuff courtesy of that overfarm. Sky Attack lands, that's valuable damage. In comes Empoleon, in the back is Gastrodon. I am in a winning spot. I have the Empoleon to shut down the Wigglytuff, and Dusclops will be able to spam out enough Shadow Punches to generally just make Gastrodon's life pretty miserable. Gastrodon will win Charge Attack priority, but Gastrodons are typically running Water Pulse now. Water Pulse obviously got reworked, so it is now a little bit cheaper, but Water Pulse is not really a problematic amount of damage for this Dusclops. Here we get to see the new switch timer in action. With 45 seconds, they're just able to escape and catch onto Wigglytuff, but now I can just farm all the way down with Empoleon. If the Gastrodon is on Water Pulse Body Slam, that means I do wall them. So I'm going to shield up the Swift and then just fully commit to the Metal Sound farm down. They do have a Water Pulse banked, but I just don't think it knocks out. It's a CMP tie. I have the double Hydro Cannons. They have the shield. Did I miscalculate? Will this KO? Water Pulse into Empoleon does not KO, and we're going to take the win as this Hydro Cannon will easily knock out that low health Gastrodon, and this team's success continues. We move to the next match, Empoleon versus Furret. I imagine Furret can probably make Empoleon's life very uncomfortable with Trailblaze boosts. I am just going to overfarm and play to the CMP tie here, my Hydro Cannon with their Trailblaze. Hydro will not one-shot. Furret has quite a bit of bulk to it, so Furret is able to withstand that. I survive a Trailblaze, but I assume that I lose the zeros by getting farmed down, so I will commit the shield and just look to exit with quite a lot of energy. Opponent gonna send out Drifblim. This is bad. I send in the Dusclops in the back. Oh no, it's a Azumarill. And unfortunately, I think this is probably gonna be a loss. My Altaria just has nowhere to run against the backline of Azumarill and Shadow Drifblim. I'm going to be no-shielding the Dusclops. Opponent goes for the Ice Beam. My guess is they're thinking that they couldn't bubble down if they went for the play rough, so they're opting for the double Ice Beam route. But I can hopefully take advantage of the switch clock pretty soon. There it is. In comes Empoleon. I'm able to save some energy and try and snipe down with the Drill Peck. Drill Peck will land. Empoleon going to be hit with a charge attack from this Azumarill. Azumarill Ice Beam does not KO, and that's bad because that means Drifblim gets another Astonish. I have to send in Altaria. Altaria just has nowhere to run against this team. Drifblim will go for the Icy Wind, and I'm just going to no-shield. Can I even survive? It looks like I can survive. Wait, this might be winnable. I have a ton of energy on the Dusclops. I go for the Sky Attack. Sky Attack forces the shield. In comes the Dusclops, and I will get the Shadow Punch. It's a 50-50. Do they catch? Do they stay in? I just click the move. They stay in. Shadow Punch should be knocking them out. How much health do they have on Azumarill? It's going to be a race. Dusclops farms down, and somehow the team with two incredibly strong counters to Altaria ends up losing to Altaria. We move to the next game, Empoleon versus Shadow Drapion. This matchup, I imagine Empoleon will win Charge Attack priority and by quite a significant margin. So there's probably some pretty good reason for Drapion to bait. So I decide to call the bait. I no shield. Unfortunately, a crunch does land, but then I get to CMP tie with the Hydro. I'm very surprised they didn't catch out of this, and I end up winning the 1-0s. In comes Quagsire. I do not want to give up farm under basically any circumstance, so I will aggressively pivot into the Dusclops, and Quagsire will not switch out. Shadow Punch lands. That's nice damage. Unfortunately, because I'm not Shadow, I can't two-shot with the Shadow Punches and the Hexes, but I can still get them pretty low. Stone Edge lands. That's definitely going to hurt. I decide to protect the Dusclops. If they're staying in, they're probably staying in because they're not a big fan of this. But here's another spot where the 45-second switch timer is nice, because my switch clock is now up. So I fire the Shadow Punch, switch into the Altaria, we snipe down the Quagsire, and whatever they have in back, I'll never know, but it loses to Altaria, so they will resign the match. We've got the battle of water starters in the next match. Empoleon into Feraligatr. Opponent safe switches into a Shiftry. Oh my goodness. Respect for the Shiftry Spice, but I have not seen that Pokemon in quite some time. It is day 1 of the season, so people will oftentimes run some interesting mons with interesting movesets, and that Hurricane does do quite a lot to Altaria. Altaria Sky Attack is going to be shielded. My opponent looking to make a play for alignment. I cannot survive another Hurricane, so I will put up the shield. Opponent is going to be baiting with Leaf Blade. I'm going to look for a farm down. They're going to pivot out and send in Feraligatr. Unfortunately, I do mistime my charge stack there, so I end up giving them a free Shadow Claw, and that means I will get outpaced. But I'm pretty okay just letting this Altaria go, as I feel like Altaria has done a pretty nice job in this matchup. I send in Empoleon. I could have probably CMP tied the Feraligatr, but I throw 4 just to be safe. Drill Peck will easily knock them out. And that way, in case the Feraligatr had somehow gotten one through against the Altaria that I missed, I don't end up in a particularly precarious position. In the back, oh, it's Venusaur, so they're running double grass. Unfortunately, this game is just over. They've already revealed their Leaf Blade Hurricane, so Dusclops is somehow not threatened here. I can just farm all the way down as Dusclops, shield up, and I'm gonna get 2 Ice Punches before Venusaur can get a Frenzy Plant. So the Leaf Blade does get shielded, in comes Venusaur, and my opponent will concede the match. Honestly, Empoleon felt really nice to use. I think that Metal Sound, people might be used to Steel Wing, so at first when trying it, they might be used to Empoleon farming things down, and that's not really what it does anymore, but with the lower damage comes increased pacing. You're able to get to Hydro Cannons a lot faster, and in a meta that's increasingly becoming more and more fast-paced, the energy generation and the ability to just outspeed things, to me, is a lot more valuable than fast move damage. So I think it's a really nice change for Empoleon. Empoleon's defensive typing, Steel Water, we know it's amazing. It's always been amazing. It was just missing a good fast move. And with a good fast move being given to it in Metal Sound and extra damage on its coverage move of Drill Peck, I think Empoleon's back. At bare minimum, strong anti-meta. I think it's probably just going to be meta. It'll obviously depend how everything shakes out, but I think Empoleon is going to be a Pokemon that we're going to be seeing a lot of this season. But I do not want to just yap about Empoleon. I also have to show some love to Altaria. Altaria was out of the meta for a full year. Nerfs to Sky Attack completely killed its pacing and therefore killed its ability to really do anything. But after a full calendar year being away, I think Altaria is back. I do think that with some of the changes to Dragon moves being more expensive than we expected, like Breaking Swipe and Dragon Claw, I think that Altaria is uniquely positioned to be a really nice Dragon type. It gets some of its pacing back, not only with cheaper Sky Attack, but Dragon Breath turning into Psywave, and with Flamethrower, now it feels a little less alignment dependent. Flamethrower, it's obviously not going to help you beat a Bastiodon, but if you're in an endgame where you can get some chip damage on something, coverage is helpful. So all in all, I like the change to Altaria, I like the change to Empoleon. To me, these two changes both get big thumbs up, and I think these are really powerful Pokemon that you can use to get wins this season of Go Battle League. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.